Hello friends, a happy new year to you all and welcome to episode 92 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. You know, Adam, as we sit here in our Project Rock Under Armour tracksuits, drinking our Zoa energy drinks with a glass of Terramana tequila on the side, I can't help but think about the latest $7 entertainment motion picture I watched yesterday on Netflix. And talking of Netflix, we are, of course, in the Netflix era, Adam. We wouldn't be Middle-Aged Outlaws if we weren't trying to give it our best. Hello, fellow kids, and trying to review the first ever streamed episode of Monday Night Raw, which is what we'll be doing tonight. Happy New Year, Adam. How you doing?
Happy New Year. I don't like this time of year, you know. I've 3 days back to work, and you know it's really freezing cold outside, and you know I'm in the process of trying to book holidays just to, you know, you need to have that thing in your mind.
You need to have something to to aim towards.
Yeah, and I'm also
WrestleMania.
Maybe. I'm also a little bit glad that we only committed to doing the first of these new Raws. How are you?
Wonderful, thanks.
Okay.
Wonderful. Ready to give my opinions on all sorts of different things, including really long breaks and really long entrances.
Yeah.
It was an interesting one. Shall we go straight for it?
Let's just jump in.
Hold on, I want to ask you, have you got any New Year's resolutions?
I don't know. Travel more and watch less current wrestling.
Nice.
What about you?
Watch less wrestling. Talk about wrestling less. No, I don't know. I would like to write a novel this year. I'll give that a bash.
Okay.
Maybe I could write about two middle-aged men stuck in their houses who embark on a career of becoming wrestlers.
No.
Nah.
I don't know about you, but see, in the morning when I get out of bed, you know, my back isn't the best. It's a lot better than it was for a while. But you know, I'll get random knee pain and stuff like that. I'm not sure now's the time to start.
But you hear all these things about testosterone treatment and stuff. We could be like what, you know, you saw how mobile Hulk Hogan was. Anyway, the 6th of January 2025. 6th of January, quite a controversial date in American modern history, given what's all went on, especially with Chris Jericho's wife. But this year, there was no assault on the Capitol. Instead, it was an assault on our eyeballs from Triple H or Paul Levesque or however he's going these days. In a groundbreaking move for professional wrestling and streaming entertainment, WWE Raw made its historic debut on Netflix this week. This marks the first time in 31 years that the show has moved away from traditional cable television. They still had to go with breaks, though. Apparently, this agreement that they've got with Netflix was worth $5 billion over 10 years.
Yeah, that's they've done well there.
Incredible.
Yeah, I had a question about, you know, obviously we've both got Netflix, we both watched on Netflix. There were a hell of a lot of breaks and what felt like filler moments. Elsewhere in the globe, are there actual adverts in these moments?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So some of us were seeing the promo material videos, but Americans certainly were seeing adverts the same as what they would have, which is bizarre because it's bizarre. They reckon that this partnership has extended has extended the potential viewership to up to 250 million users of the Netflix. Whatever. So yeah, it is crazy. With that in mind that we talk about this Monday's Raw, and I think we preface anything we're about to say with, we understand that this was perhaps not for us. We understand that this was perhaps for John and Cindy that are sitting down to watch their first ever episode. Let's see what this is all about. Is that fair to say that that's what this was?
Yeah, this was not created for a wrestling fan. It was created to get people watching who previously wouldn't or hadn't. And I get it. We were messaging about this as we were going. I think we both understand that not all content that's ever created is for us, although you do sometimes get the thing, but I like that, and you've changed it. That's. But I suppose it's probably quite a fine balancing act, because what you would think they wouldn't want to do is drive away an audience that is loyal to them, that they already have. But I can see why on your first show you have to try and grab as many potential viewers as you can get.
Mm-hmm. I think I would just argue, before we get into this, I think I would just argue that to someone that's never, most people in the world have seen wrestling at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But wrestling to, I don't know, to a lapsed fan is different to what it is to somebody that's never set eyes on it before, to what someone's idea of wrestling was 20, 30, 40 years ago is different to what it is now. And I just thought when they showed Braun Breaker in the crowd, for example, a lot later on, what better way to get someone in brand new than to get them to hook onto someone young and like, that's my guy, I'm going to hook onto that guy, that's my guy. I get The Rock.
Yeah.
Lapsed fans, The Rock, amazing. Movie fans, all that. But do you know what I kept thinking of? And I know I appreciate this is quite random. I kept thinking of Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, SummerSlam 2002. I don't care who you showed that to, they'd be entertained by it.
Yeah.
And it's a wrestling match. Anyway.
I mean, I always remember them talking about, see when they went and got Tyson. They got Tyson for the Raws and then the WrestleMania. They got Tyson on screen. He was known. He was established. At that point in time,
Cold Stone.
At that point in time, it felt like WWE had moved away from having WrestleManias filled with celebrities. But then you went and got this guy who was known. He was known throughout the sport world. He was known, beyond boxing. His name was out there. And I remember hearing various people who were involved in interviews or whatever saying what we needed to do was say, hey, we've got this guy. And then as soon as they look our way, we show them what we've got, and we want them to then grab onto that, which makes total sense. But I think is what you were just getting at there. That would have made sense.
Yeah, and that's what they did with someone like Bad Bunny. You would have got people who enjoy his music that won't have ever watched wrestling watch it and go, oh my god, this is crazy. He did a street fight with Damian Priest and he was like fully embraced it.
Yeah,
100%. Okay, let's get into it. Did you have any streaming issues, by the way? No.
No, it was
a lot of people complained with the NFL and the Jake Paul.
I watched. See the Christmas Day NFL game. I watched one of them. I think, unfortunately, I watched it.
You were throwing things at the TV and all that.
It wasn't a great game from my point of view, but there was something released about the amount of people that were actually streaming watching that game. I can't remember what it was, but it was an insane number. And you think, well, I kind of get it that some people were having issues, but I've never actually had it, either with that or with the Raw. Mine was fine.
Right, okay. So we kick off with something that WWE have historically done amazing for the whole time that we've been watching, and that is a beautiful video package narrated by Triple H. What was it? What was the concept? Was it the story of WWE or something like that?
Yeah, that's kind of where they got to. He was talking a lot about how they're bringing America to the world. A huge part of what was traditionally American television was professional wrestling, and now that is going to be available everywhere, basically. And I kind of got what they were getting at. It didn't hit me the same way as some of those old ones when you get, Freddie Blassie and stuff like that, and it didn't hit that same way.
No, I did like the canvas, painting on the canvas, and the canvas of canvas. But
What did you make of, like, they were talking, I think at the start he talks good and evil, and then he goes on to talk face and heel.
Face and heel, he talks about breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
A shoot, whether a shoot.
Yeah, a lot of the terms
know.
used, it wasn't for me. I don't think I would put that front and center in your intro. I think, there's times to do it. There's maybe times when you want people to believe somebody's gone off script or gone off to do their own thing. But I thought putting it right there in the intro was a little bit jarring.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think also that this gives you like a really good opportunity. Everyone says kayfabe's dead. Well, here's a really good opportunity to. Is it naive to say restart kayfabe?
Yeah,
introduce it a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to fully get back there, but play along.
Yeah, immerse your audience, your new audience that are potentially able to be immersed and aren't, cynical and broken down.
yeah, true.
I like the curtain thing that they had the big curtains and they were projecting the video on. I've seen that done at concerts and stuff like that. It's cool.
Yeah.
Drop down with the pyro, Triple H, and Triple H is stood in the middle, and we get treated to our very first rah-rah. We're bringing you to the world, like you said. Netflix, welcome Netflix, hello Netflix. Oh, it was, yeah. He did the Are You Ready? And it was fine. We got lots of pyro. I wonder if they're going to go pyro every week like they used to do.
Yeah, probably got the money for it now, I would think. Yeah.
That was one of the, I don't know, it's part of the experience of the start of Raw and SmackDown was the pyro and the JR. Welcome everybody.
One of the things I found funny about it though, because they're in a big arena, and I think they're saying it's the biggest crowd they'd had in that arena, or no, was it WWE's biggest arena crowd?
No, I think they were saying it was their biggest gate. We're fucking charging you an absolute pocketful.
Nobody normal could afford that. That's why it was full of celebrities. But yeah, I was thinking back to the first ever Raw, which gets referenced a few times as you're going, which is in this pretty small arena, and there's no pyro. It's all stripped back. It's all they called it Raw because that's what they wanted the look of it to be, quite underproduced and things like that compared to other stuff. And then you look at what it is now, it's crazy.
Painted with gloss.
Yeah.
Triple H says welcome to the Netflix era, which is just all a bit on the nose for me as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you get to name what the era is.
No, that's for the, that's for the audience, or even, usually, traditionally, it'd been several years after that era had finished that it was branded to be what era it was.
It's like guys saying, I can't wait to have my WrestleMania moment. You don't get to say you're going to have it. You have one. Yeah. Maybe it's reflected upon 5 years, 10 years later.
Yeah.
This could be a long moan of an episode. I tell you, this arena that they're in looked like absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah.
So cutting edge.
It did. Yeah.
It looked brilliant, and I liked. I don't know if you noticed that. With where they come out the entrance, they'd taken away the big screens above there, and it was just all fans as well.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
Looked cool.
Yeah.
And just one more thing before we get into what happens next. What do you think of like sort of drone shots and all that sort of stuff?
See, I don't mind stuff like that. I think it's different, it's innovative. It's maybe not for me.
Right.
I don't mind seeing that kind of thing. I think you can do some interesting stuff with it. Like I'll always remember when they first started introducing like the hanging shot where, if people were on a ladder and things like that, and you were looking down on them and you saw it from that angle. I thought that was cool. So I think there is interesting stuff they could do with this.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It did feel a little bit jarring in that there's quite a lot of new product. Well, I've not watched Raw properly in a little bit.
Yeah.
But it did feel like there's a lot of production changes all thrown in at the same time. I can imagine Kevin Dunn doing all these sorts of things.
No.
Just, He's got his expertise. It's running into burning buildings, or was that his dad that ran into a burning building? Okay, so here we go. First extended entrance of the night. We get The Rock's final boss music, and the presentation. The pop for The Rock is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one of the night. I think.
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. Yeah.
He comes out. He's got his Muhammad Ali People's Champion belt because everybody needs a belt, and he's smiling. And immediately they're like, "Well, that's Dwayne the Brand Johnson that's coming out. It's not the final boss, who was a great character, and all this stuff that he was doing when he was whipping Cody and drawing blood and swearing in his social media things and all that sort of stuff. Because for years we harped on about him being this really contrived brand character that he'd become, smiling everywhere and not really saying very much. And he came back and he had the waistcoats on and he was calling people crackheads and that. It was brilliant.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's something a bit different.
And the last time he was on TV, I think he was on the Bad Blood pay-per-view, and they maybe came out and stared down Roman or something like that. Yeah. That's the last time we saw him. So he's here and he's on the mic and he's just giving the same rah-rah Netflix, thank you so much, shouting at all these rich guys that are up in the boxes and all that.
I was so disappointed with the way all of this went, because I quite like the look. I didn't watch that much TV, but in the build up to Mania, you saw the bits and pieces and the character he was becoming, and I'd always had it in my mind, he could come back as having been the puppet master behind everything Solo Sikoa was doing, and that's what made sense to me. And then for it to be him, and right at the start of it to come out and big up the Netflix bosses that are sitting in that booth, and you're totally taken out of it. You're like, oh no. And then he's given props to Cody as well for carrying the company on his back and things like that.
How bad is that? And Cody just so happens to be standing there in the crowd and he's giving it the G shucks face, like, oh Dwayne.
I would have got it more if you'd had, and you wouldn't have opened your show like this, but if you'd had somebody like Nick Khan, go out and say a few words about, the collaboration with Netflix and things like that, and guys are in the booth, thank you, been great working with you so far. But to have it be this character that you'd use to come out and do it, it's like, come on.
It's so deflating.
Yeah.
And I think the real kick in the balls is Cody going like, oh, thanks so much. He doesn't even have the belt. He's standing there.
Yeah.
Even
if he'd done a bit of an exasperated, fuck you.
Aye, what are you talking about? Oh, he says, oh, tell Mama Rhodes, and he's just like, oh, Dwayne, your jokes. So The Rock throws like about 18 months worth of storyline out the window so he can come out and be best mates with everybody and all that load of shite. And I think he says, I acknowledge my cousin Roman Reigns as well, and then that's basically it, isn't it? He's back up the aisle. Yeah,
because even saying that took me totally out of that storyline, because that's, based on what's going to happen in the next match, what's Rock's stance on all this, and you're like, it's Roman's his guy, okay, fine.
Yeah. Really weird. Because the last time he was aligned with Roman, they were heels.
Yeah.
Roman's now a face, and that's the other thing. I think they were referring to him. They went on and on about him being a high chief as opposed to anything else. He'd been back to Samoa and been anointed. All this. What does that make? Tribal chief? Fuck all.
Yeah, it must do. And I was sitting watching, thinking, okay, are they, because of everything that's going on that night, they're trying to spin Rock as he's actually been a babyface all along? There was maybe some misunderstandings or whatever. Like, come on, you've ruined everything.
Brilliant. He has. It definitely seems like Triple H is in charge of creative unless The Rock decides he wants to do something else. Okay, we get to our first match. I think we're 4 hours into the show. We get our first match. It is tribal combat, which means no DQs, what they used to call that in that era.
Yeah.
To determine the undisputed tribal chief. We have Roman Reigns, the OTC. I don't know what the O stands for.
Original,
okay. Versus Solo Sikoa.
Surely someone
the ETC.
within the heritage that has a bit of beef with him being called the original. I mean, this surely goes back a bit.
Well, I was going to say something really horrible, but I don't think there'll be a lot of them still.
Okay. Yeah, it's just true.
Yeah. But our boy Yoko would have definitely had some.
Oh, yeah.
What relations? Oh, we don't know that. An uncle.
Yes, yeah, it's in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Do you know, I was thinking about all the way back when we were talking about reviewing WrestleMania 37, I think it was. That was Roman versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. Could that have been?
Right, okay.
Was the main event. And I remember us talking about that and us saying, like, Roman Reigns is on a completely different level from anybody else that was on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they've done this really odd job of making him look really normal. And I actually really liked Solo better throughout this whole thing than I did Roman.
Okay.
What do you think of it?
I've struggled all along to view Solo at that level, like him being the leader of this group, and Roman Reigns just off the back of first pinfall defeat in however many years it was. I struggle, and I still struggle a bit with it, seeing him positioned at that level. What I quite liked that they were doing with Solo in this match, and he'd shown signs of it before. He'd shown signs of it when Roman beat Cody and then lost Cody, of him getting quite irate at times with Roman maybe not having quite as vicious a streak as he would want him to, because he's shouting in his face and stuff like that. And they were bringing that emotion, I thought, out of Solo. He was screaming things like, "You never loved me. I would have done anything for you."
Yeah, and I really like that.
That was kind of the story that felt like it was carrying the match. Whereas I don't think the story that they were telling enough of, and again, I've not been watching the TV shows and stuff like that, but I didn't think there was enough of the story about why Roman desperately needed to get back to being the man at the head of that group. I didn't think that was really there.
Something they've never done, like you said you watched Survivor Series, they've aligned Sami Zayn and Jay and Jimmy back with Roman.
Yeah.
And I think they've been, and Paul Heyman, they've been pretty clear that he's never apologised for his actions. Like, he was a absolute tormentor of these people.
He was like a maniacal tyrant for quite a while. And like the stuff he put particularly Jimmy and Jay through, just sort of seems a bit unreasonable. And I do wonder, if the group all gets realigned, is there, another story to be told about him maybe being at the top and then starting on the same path again, and people being that some of the rest of them being a bit like, whoa, we've been here, we've been through this can't happen this way. But I just don't know what way they're kind of gonna go with any of it. I feel like in my mind, I felt at the time like they rushed Roman back a little bit. I know he was off quite a while, but I think that they were desperate to get that set up for Survivor Series. And
that did feel rushed.
Yeah, and like in my mind, he could have been off a year. If you could have paced it that he, came back. The crowd did pop for it when he came back, but they would have popped for it even more the longer he'd been away. And then I felt like they've just never given me enough of a reason. I don't think.
No, I agree. And he's also, I think I could get behind it a little bit more if his mannerisms and the way that he acted were the exact same as when he was this heel. But he was smiling at the crowd and stuff.
Yeah.
And that felt weird to me as well. And I was actually thinking to myself, I could see them booing him in like 4 or 5 weeks.
Because we've seen it work really well before, where somebody really doesn't change an awful lot, but they've turned heel to babyface, and it's the crowd that turn you heel to babyface. And they would have done that without.
They did do that, didn't they? Yeah. The match was the match was like copy and paste Roman Reigns matches for, regardless of face or heel dynamic, copy and paste for quite a long time. I quite enjoyed Solo in this match, to be fair. I thought he was quite good, showed some personality, but it was very much overbooked with everybody running in, and like how many matches have you seen like these where somebody goes to pin somebody and the ref gets hoid out the ring?
Yeah, I didn't. I remember I was watching, because I'd said to you before, this kind of it felt like they were trying to recreate what they got at WrestleMania with Roman and Cody and all the run-ins, and I felt like they got away with it at WrestleMania. It was a big story, and there was a lot of logic. Like, some of it seemed ridiculous, and I remember sort of thinking when the Undertaker popped up, what's going on here? But like, you had the Uso brothers going at each other. You had John Cena coming out to face Solo Sikoa, who had beat him, and in storyline, I think, injured him and all that.
That's right.
And a lot of it made sense, and The Rock made sense being there. But this, I don't know, it just felt a bit like, these guys will go out there and these things will happen. And
it makes sense that Tama Tonga came out, and it makes sense that Jacob Fatu came out to me because they're heels and they're supporting, and I love you, Solo, and all that. And Jacob's class, like, we won't get him on TV as much as we possibly can.
Terrified of that man. Like,
he's very, very Umaga, isn't he?
If I encountered him at any point, I'm no athlete, but I would find the ability to run. I would just be gone. He is a scary, scary man.
Yes, that moonsault he does is unbelievable. I think it made sense that they came out. I actually liked Kevin Owens coming out, appearing and hitting Roman with the stunner, because he's on this sort of storyline wise. He's on this sort of like fuck Roman and anybody that teamed up with him and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't really know where he was at, but they were filling it in on the commentary as you were going, basically explaining that the moment that Cody agreed to team with Roman, that's when something switched in Owens' head. Because I watched Mania, but that didn't play out in that way at Mania. But and then he took that view, and I was glad they filled in that bit of story for me, because I was thinking, what's going on? I knew he'd turned heel, but I was a bit like, as far as I was aware, his entire beef was with Cody over title and stuff like that. So I didn't really have all the gaps filled in until they were explaining it.
These people, Drew McIntyre's doing the same. He said he's going through everybody that aligned with Roman. That's obviously why he was fighting Jay on this, and he fought Sammy on the Saturday night's main event. And Rollins, one of his beefs was that Punk was involved with Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. These people are the faces.
Yeah.
This guy is an absolute lunatic and narcissist and gaslighter for like 4 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. It is almost like it's the flip side of everyone that came to get their comeuppance on him and his crew at Mania. It's like, actually, this is justified.
Yeah, absolutely. This match obviously had all the run-ins, but it also started a trend that we saw for the rest of the night, which was, let's spam our finishers until such point that finishers, and I know where we are as far as in modern wrestling, but come on, they must have kicked out his Samoan spikes and spears so many times.
Over the top, yeah.
Eventually Roman wins. I don't think anybody would have thought that Roman was not going to win.
Yeah.
Unless The Rock had got involved, possibly.
Well, I was hoping, because Roman wins and Heyman is going to present him with the Una Fala? Yeah, Ula Fala. And the Rock starts walking down the ring, and I for a second I was like, This is where it happens. Okay, you're going to give me something back here, and you're going to,
Yeah.
set the path for where we're going to go, and then just like, nah.
Very slow. Like, he gave us blue balls there because he was going so slowly with that thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually put it on him. It was quite a good camera shot they had. You don't get that shot an awful lot where Roman was sat on the ground and in the background you saw The Rock slowly walking out.
Yeah.
That was quite cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much production over content at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was our first match. Next up was another segment. I think they would have done really well to open with this next segment, which was John Cena making his the beginning of his farewell tour. He had the farewell tour T-shirt on. The last time is now towel. Amazing how you can change your feelings about somebody when they're on the way out. And he comes into the ring and starts giving it the rah-rah stuff as well. But it wasn't overdone. And if The Rock and Triple H hadn't already done it, it would have been fine.
Yeah, that's true. He was making enough of it for me personal because he talked a lot. Netflix are mentioned, but he talked a lot about LA and all of the significant career milestones he'd had in LA.
LA is where the prototype was born, he says.
Yes.
You got a pop.
Yeah.
Surely means the prototype was created, not born.
Yeah.
But I liked this promo. It's like this was a bit of a promo class promo because he starts off as an underdog and people and he has to get that over a little bit. The fact that he's an underdog because it's John Cena. He talks about being 2,000 odd days since he last had a win.
Yeah.
And he gets over. I kind of just come in here and demand a match at WrestleMania. He puts over all the different potential matches he could have. Cody, Punk, Gunther, Logan Paul. Can you imagine? But he eventually starts talking himself round to the point where he's like, no, I could do this, actually. It was almost like he was being interviewed by someone.
To me, it was almost like he was thinking out loud. These things were occurring to him as he was speaking through it. And he's like, that's how I get my shot. And yeah, I liked it.
He's bringing the crowd along with him. And that's the thing. Like, the difference between him and The Rock there is that The Rock has completely broken the fourth wall and walked out there and been like, this is wrestling and Netflix, but like John Cena's talking in storyline about himself.
Yeah.
So frustrating. I really liked this. And I thought if you weren't invested in John Cena's final year, then that would, if you watched that, I think you would, I want to see where this guy goes or whatever.
Yeah, he's funny. I think everyone who watched wrestling for a period of time just got a bit sick of seeing him in the main event, what felt like every event, every month. But it turned for me a little bit when he started going up against what felt like the younger generation, and he started putting them over. They were getting wins on him. And it comes back to that thing, a loss at a pay-per-view doesn't mean anything to John Cena in terms of where people view him. Whereas what it can do for the other guy, I think he definitely put over Kevin Owens, and he put over.
I think he put Kevin Owens over on like his first night up from NXT or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, he put over Daniel Bryan before Daniel Bryan, I think, was established at that level. I think they were almost brothers-in-law at the time, but still, he did that. So my opinion had started to change, and then the fact he's not there all the time does kind of make you, I think, appreciate when he does turn up.
Yeah, I think I see it. Oh, mine's just come up now. That was a silly idea. Now, if anybody that's listening to this has come up as well. I think he did Rusev, and they do like Rusev and Bray Wyatt, like consecutive WrestleManias. Maybe they might not put them over, but it is a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay, our next match after Cena's. Sort of before we go into that, actually, who would you like to see him wrestle? They might not have wrestled.
I would be interested to see him. I had been thinking Gunther would be a good opponent, but I wouldn't want him to take like a title off Gunther. I'd kind of want to see him get his ass kicked, Gunther. So I don't think that should be his last match. That feels a little bit brutal. Yeah, I don't really have much interest in the Logan Paul one. I know that's been talked about quite a bit as a potential one. In terms of last match, I think if he can go to the extent he would maybe need to, there's something sentimental about potentially him and Randy Orton because they had such a long program. Not that either of them need that. I just think in terms of closing the book on it. But my only worry with that would be I know Orton was out for a long time with injuries. I know he is back, isn't he? He's been back a little while now. Yeah. So as long as he could carry that match, because I think he would need to. He probably needed to the majority of the time they had the matches in the past anyway. I think that'd be a nice final match. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to see him in a match again where there's something at stake. And I don't know if that should be a world title. I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. I'm in two minds about that.
I think I'd like to see him and Punk. They don't necessarily need to wrestle, but I just think I'd like to see some sort of interaction, no backstage, but more of a maybe in a Piper's Pit type scenario.
All right, okay.
I think him getting absolutely destroyed by Braun Breaker would be brilliant.
Yeah, that's a good shout actually. And I mean, he's very much on the ascendancy, Braun Breaker, but that kind of thing helps you along nicely, I think.
Yeah. Apart from that, like, in theory, on paper, Logan Paul sounds like a terrible idea because, you know, it's John Cena and he's only got a certain number of matches left, but he would be able to throw himself about all over the shop for him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I think him either winning the Rumble or Money in the Bank or something like that would be quite enjoyable.
It does feel
story.
like they should give him something to give him his big final moment. You know, even if he goes it. I did wonder, like, it's so rare that anyone ever gets to retire as a champion. Like, it has happened. It's rare, but it has happened. But I did want. It's bound to be discussed, you would think, in creative. You know, what if he wins the title and then just puts it down and walks away? You know, that kind of thing.
Breaks the record and walks off.
Yeah.
I think I said this at the time we were talking. Remember when Austin wrestled Kevin Owens? I'd like to see Austin Cena.
Yeah.
I don't mean from a point of view of what they would actually do in the ring, but just from the marquee thing.
Yeah, it's a spectacle. It's yeah.
Okay, we've got the women's. What is it? The Women's World Championship on the line between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. They've had a big long thing going on. Liv stole Dominic Mysterio and essentially put herself into the Judgment Day and kicked Rhea out of the Judgment Day and all this sort of thing. She's half her height and just to jump up and swing to try and hit her. But hey-ho. It's at this point they showed us Seth Green in the crowd. Looked very uncomfortable to be getting filmed. And then Topanga from Boy Meets World as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Legend.
They have Liv Morgan coming out with Raquel Rodriguez and Dominic Mysterio. Is this the first time you've seen Dominic Mysterio in a while?
It would be for a while. I've seen him. You know, I remember he had the storyline with Ray where he, I think, cheated to win once or twice and all that. And then I knew he'd kind of gone on this, basically carried along with this Judgment Day story, which I think elevated him as a character. And then got involved in this storyline, which I feel like there's been so much of it on screen. They're trying so hard to make me care, and I really struggle to care. But like, there's some bits in this that I've really struggled with. See, when you've got Liv Morgan, like you say, she's half Rhea Ripley's height. That's probably not that far off. She's tiny. Rhea Ripley is this huge, dominant, intimidating character. And I am absolutely fine with the Liv, cheating a little bit and the outside influence trying to help out and things like that. But when she's just ramming Rhea into barriers, I'm like, you wouldn't be able to do that. There's no chance in hell you'd be able to do that.
You're struggling with the putting it to the side.
Yeah.
There was... First of all, I was going to say, what do you think of presentation of Ripley? Again, I went back to WrestleMania 37. I think we were laughing about her. I think it just all came across a bit contrived. But for me, presentation of her was just like,
oh yeah,
A plus.
I'm kind of assuming if she hadn't got an injury, they would have gone with a very long-term title reign for her. And it, for her to end up feeling and seeming like the leader of the Judgment Day at times as it drew towards that incarnation's end, I think showed a lot in terms of her development. And yeah, I think she's presented brilliantly. I've just not been a fan of this storyline, really.
That's fair enough. I think it's funny because obviously women's wrestling's come a long way. But there is something, I don't know if this is sexist or not, but there is something that it feels like there's a glass ceiling as far as women's wrestling's concerned. I remember thinking this when China fought Ivory at, was that 17?
I think that was 17, yeah.
And it's just like, well, but there needs to be somewhere else for her to go. And they did it. They put Beth Phoenix in a Royal Rumble once, I seem to remember. And you just feel like Ripley's like, there's not really anybody that can really... There's nobody on her level.
Yeah, like who can...
Even Becky Lynch, I don't think.
Yeah, and did they have a Mania match at a point? Or a Big Show match at a point?
They did, yeah.
And I think the fact that Rhea Ripley's already gone through her, although I think they had Becky Lynch put up a hell of a fight from what I remember, but she beat her. She's beat Charlotte, who I think is due back pretty soon as well.
They had a really good match.
Yeah, and they could maybe go again. You could see that. But yeah, it feels pretty limited in terms of where you can go. I liked her being involved in a faction from the point of view that it felt like she was at least equal within it. It didn't feel like she was the token woman in the faction. It felt like she was leading it for a lot of the time. But you couldn't really go back not quickly to something like that again. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with her just now.
I forgot about Charlotte Flair because I don't think she's been around for a while. Maybe the last time she was there was when Ripley beat her for her title. Yeah,
I think there's been talk of her and Becky Lynch both being back in time for the Rumble, I think.
Right. And they had a really good match. That is somebody that could probably match her. Flair's really good. Flair's really good in the ring. What was that Michael Cole on about? Continually shouting Rhea bloody Ripley.
I don't know.
It's like Seth freaking Rollins.
It was really weird.
Rhea bloody. It was fucking hell, Cole. Calm down.
I think it was in this match that I started to miss the old dynamic of having a heel announcer as well, because
best mates
both tearing into the Dom. And I'm like, come on. It has to be one of you trying to see things from his point of view. And it just ended up a bit of a pile-on, which it bored me from a commentator point of view.
Yeah, that's so funny, because I was thinking, we've been watching these 93, 94 Raws, and this is a pay-per-view sort of level presentation that we're getting.
Yeah.
But it's boring somehow.
Yeah.
And some, like PJ Polacco versus IRS is hardly Mania worthy, but the commentary team bring it along.
Yeah, definitely.
They argue, they're funny, they're talking you through storylines and that. And these two were just like, it's so good to be with my best friend, Pat McAfee. It's like, fuck off. It's a break, man.
I have a horrible feeling that Michael Cole's genuine in that as well. I think he kind of really... I think it's almost like a little brother thing with Pat McAfee.
I've never known McAfee to have such a twang to his accent before. I was laughing, you text me saying, I didn't really enjoy that. and no Indianapolis.
I call him Colts punter.
No Colts punter is going to convince me otherwise, or something like that. Brilliant. We'll not go too much into this match. Rhea wins. She was always going to win. It did piss me off that Liv kept kicking out of her finishing move.
Yeah. Liv should be squirming out of the finishing move being hit. She shouldn't be kicking out of a finishing move being
Dominic pulling the ref out or putting her leg on the ropes.
Something to get her out of it, yeah.
But yeah, Rhea wins. She then goes full Sable Mark Merrow and gives her finishing move to Dominic as well.
Yep.
I was thinking, like, in this day and age, it probably doesn't matter, but I was thinking if that was before that, he's done, like, he's dead.
Yeah.
And then, as she's celebrating and walking out the ring and all that, Dominic tries to give her a hug, doesn't he? But
I couldn't tell.
He's sneaking up behind her.
Yeah, so he looks like he's sneaking up behind her to attack her, and then when she kind of catches him, he's like asking for a hug, and I think the announcers pile on with he was always going to try and leave with whoever had the gold or something like that, and I couldn't tell whether, whenever this story goes to its next episode with Liv and Dom, is she going to be pissed off, or was it I was just trying to attack her and she caught me, that kind of thing.
They do come across as like a couple of devious little shits, don't they, the pair of them together?
Yeah, they do, to be fair. I don't mind them together. And do you know, the whole idea of having, cause I think it was it positioned as her revenge tour, because had Rhea originally injured her or something like that, and I thought, you've got a story there. I don't know if it's the physical difference or what. I struggled to buy into it.
Well, yes, and Rhea's celebrating and all that, and then suddenly the lights go off. You get the Undertaker's gong, and Rhea's sort of looking at the camera like, "What? What's going on here?" Now, as a programmed wrestling fan, if you're standing in the ring and the Undertaker's gong goes off, you're terrified because he's coming for you. But no Rhea Ripley. She's like, "Oh man, didn't know this was going to happen," and that sort of stuff. And Taker appears, looks like he's completely lost and goes for a drive. He drives past her.
Yep, no acknowledgement that she was there, just drives past.
Round the ring, he does something to Pat McAfee, I don't know what. He goes over, he drives back up, they fist bump, raise their hand, and I thought she might have got on his bike or something.
Yeah,
I'm sure Buddy Murphy would be pretty uncomfortable with that. But
I was thinking that's what was going to happen when the bike came back. I thought they're just going to go. Yeah, they were telling a little bit about, apparently Taker main evented the first ever Monday Night Raw.
Oh, really?
So I think they were using that as this is why he's here. It was interesting to see him in the American Badass gimmick rather than the traditional Undertaker gimmick.
It's all very, very weird. Very weird. And then they showed his wife in the crowd. And Cole said, "She is one of the greatest women wrestlers in WWE history. Michelle McCool, is she?" Brilliant. I don't believe you. Okay, so we go through a bunch of different things now. So is this when we had Adam Pearce backstage and he had the volume turned down on his voice?
Yeah, you couldn't hear him. I mean, even because I was thinking maybe it's not supposed to be prominent right at the start. You're not supposed to be in there with him yet. You're not supposed to hear it yet. But he just continued to be incredibly quiet. But what made it up for it for me was seeing Chad Gable, because I'm a Chad Gable guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just to give you a very quick summary of what's happened to Chad Gable. So Chad Gable was coming to the end of his contract, not in kayfabe, in real life. He signed the new 5-year deal, apparently, the week after the Wyatt Six faction debuted and killed him. It looked like they'd killed him. So then I think he was sort of involved with them, but his main involvement was like looking scared and running away from them all the time. And now, yeah, he's got this crew of guys that came up from NXT that are just sort of like before he'd signed his new contract, he was wrestling Gunther.
And
for the Intercontinental title with Sami Zayn, he was involved with as well.
He's a good wrestler.
He's brilliant.
Let him wrestle.
just make him like Kurt Angle. He's quite entertaining as well.
Yeah, I've always found him quite entertaining. I don't know if part of it in my brain is like he's this mini Kurt Angle. Like he knows he's not quite at the stature of Kurt Angle, but he desperately wants to be, and I don't know why, but I just find him really entertaining.
Do you remember we watched a takeover, an NXT takeover, and we're seeing what are they called, American Alpha at that point? And him that was Kurt Angle's son.
yeah.
Jason Jordan.
Yeah, he got a bad injury or something. I think. Yeah.
It was them two versus FTR or what the Revival or whatever they were called. It was class, really good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chad asks for give me the best luchador you can find. Like, there's no build up to that. Triple H is like, so we've got Pentagon or we've got Penta, and we need somebody to say something about a luchador so that he can.
I don't know why, but even him just saying that just really made me laugh.
So we're going to get Chad Gable versus Penta.
He said something at the start, like everybody's saying I've got an issue with luchadors or something, and everyone else in the room's kind of looking at each other like, I don't think this has ever been mentioned.
It would have been great if Otis had come up with a luchador mask on after that. So we got that. We got the Miz being. At first, I thought the Miz was being a babyface and being genuine about Cena coming back. Then I realised he was being really sarcastic.
Yeah.
And then he was with and then Karrion Kross and Scarlett appeared, and them and the Miz have had a bit of a team up type thing going on against the Wyatt Six. But Kross, I've seen a few things where Kross has been saying, "You better team up with us, or I'll throw you down the stairs, or I'll like throw you in front of a car and stuff like that." It'd been quite funny and entertaining, but this time it was just like that thing where you try and get a kid to say yes to something. Yeah. And that was all just daft, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't like seeing him being used like that, because I don't know, that's just a really bad fit for me. For
Kross
him.
He should
be in Kross. He should be being intimidating as anything, and that's it's just how
Have you seen the videos online of Kross breaking a baseball bat?
I don't think so.
He does jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, not seen that.
There's videos, and he does it with like 3 or 4 at the same time, snaps them all at the same. Terrifying. Why is he not doing stuff like that in a middle of a ring?
Are Kofi Kingston and the other fella, are they heels now?
Yes.
Come on.
They publicly just started tearing into Big E and calling him basically a pussy for breaking his neck.
Okay. Seems a wee bit harsh, but okay.
So they're getting like really booed. They're getting like Dominic Mysterio booed.
Okay.
But it's quite. I feel like there's something about Kofi as a heel. Like, he kind of suits it actually.
It might work. I suppose, how long can you just be doing the exact same stuff over and over again? Probably needed a bit of a refresh.
Things get really weird. They start showing a stream from The Rock's Instagram, and he's like necking tequila and then tearing off in his car. Him and Cody Rhodes are best mating it up.
Yeah.
They showed like Gorilla and stuff like that, didn't they?
Yeah.
So weird.
Very weird.
So that takes us to our next match, which is Drew McIntyre going through his hit list of Roman sympathisers. He's taken on Jey Uso, who must be, now tell me if you think this is unfair, one of the most over-pushed people in the modern... Well, I mean, we've had Roman, but I just mean like sort of in proportion to his in-ring skills, how over he is unbelievable.
I think it's a little bit of a shame, but not for him. He's doing well. He's making his money while he can. I think I will just always view him as a tag team guy, and I don't know what a yeet is meant to be. This isn't for me. I don't think.
No.
Who was the guy that was with him on his entrance?
That was Travis Scott. Smoking a blunt. Smoking a blunt in the crowd.
And then offering it. And
Did he offer it to Jey Uso?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think Michael Cole lost it a wee bit.
Oh, he was like dancing on the announce
I was
desk.
assuming Michael Cole had done a shot at that joint as well.
I thought Travis Scott was maybe performing. I think they'd billed him as performing, but he was just. Oh, I think he was in the Rock's video as well, wasn't he? He was hanging out backstage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The gaps. So this Jay's entrance completely killed the crowd. It was so over the top. It was on forever. Mm-hmm. By the time they get to the match and McIntyre coming out, the crowd were dead. And they were dead through this match, and it was a pretty poor match.
Yeah. I don't know if this is just linked to what we were talking about before, but if you've got Drew McIntyre and he's on this tear and he's going through all these people, I kind of wanted him to destroy him.
Same. Does not make sense for him to lose, especially in the manner that he did.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of the match, it is like he's destroying him, and then you'll get the Jey Uso kicks and comebacks and things like that, and then Drew would just do something like a massive Claymore kick after a few of the kicks by Jey. And I think this was another match where I think I was getting annoyed by Jey's kickouts of the big moves by Drew. I was like, come on now. Don't do that here in this match. There's no need for it.
There were some bits and I enjoyed Drew's work with Punk, and I think see what you want about Punk, but I do think he elevated McIntyre quite a lot.
It was a good
on the mic and the Hell in a Cell match. I thought he was really bad in this match. The way he was selling these punches, and there was times he was sort of wobbling about he was, and I think he's too big to do that.
Yeah, it almost looked cartoonish when he was
people
doing
laughing
stuff
in
like
the crowd when he was doing
it.
Yeah. Something I did notice right at the start, the jump start it. I think Jay dives out the ring, and there's a guy in the front row, definitely looked older than us. And he is loving life, and he's got an Acknowledge Daddy t-shirt on. So he's the one person that bought one of those t-shirts.
Amazing.
Acknowledge Daddy. Yeah, this was a really bad match. Really bad. The way that it finished with the Claymore attempt, but Jay sort of rolling him up was weird and poor. As well.
Yeah, they seem to be trying to tell a story about Drew's over aggressiveness costing him, and I don't know. It wasn't what they were saying wasn't matching what you were seeing, which just didn't really work.
There was a bit where he was going to hit the Claymore, and Jay just sort of fell over. He sort of collapsed in front of him, and I thought, what a brilliant opportunity for him just to have hit it.
Yeah.
Show no mercy.
But
he stopped and then started laughing at the crowd and playing the crowd and all that. Okay, so we're 2 hours and 19 minutes in at this point, and that seems like the perfect opportunity to show a pre-recorded vignette of your world champion.
Yeah. So in terms of, is it one champion per show, or has it been one champion?
Yeah.
So who is the Raw
Gunther
champion? And this is how they've used him on the...
Cody's SmackDown champion. Yeah. This is how they used him, Really poor,
Yeah.
Really poor. Think all these different things that's happened so far. Gunther comes out, wrecks The Rock whilst he's giving it the whole rah-rah Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
Gunther comes out, wrecks John Cena whilst he's giving it, this is my final tour.
I think that would have really worked, the Cena one, because he is, as soon as he has started having his realizations about what he can do to get himself in a main event in Mania, Gunther just coming out and destroying him and just being like, that is how long your dreams lasted. That's it.
Exactly. That's Gunther comes out and wrecks The Rock and Roman Reigns after he's given him Paul Heyman for that matter. Stop disrespecting me on my show. I should have been the opening. Blah, 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 blah. Sick. Kath Kelly backstage with what I can only assume is a darts player, is what I've written in my notes. I don't know who that was.
I can't remember this.
He was speaking with Kofi and Xavier Woods. I have no idea who it was. I think they said he had a Netflix special. So
okay.
Then we had Jackie Redmond with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, another one that's didn't get opportunity to be on the show, but he's kind of being presented as like he's the guy that comes along with Rhea Ripley. If you didn't know,
and you think he'd had his title run. It was fairly short, but it doesn't really feel like they've done anything with it. They've obviously done the breakup of the Judgment Day, and he had the thing with why is his name gone?
Balor. Balor.
But it doesn't feel like they've tried to elevate him back up to the main event status at all.
Him versus Gunther would have been replace that McIntyre match with him versus Gunther, and just good opportunity for Gunther to go over clean, but make Priest look like a bit of a beast against this guy who's an animal.
Because there was the shenanigans in the match, the interference by Balor costing Priest previously, so it would kind of make sense.
Yes. Now we get the highlight of the show. Certainly for you, Adam.
Oh, I loved this.
Go on, talk us through it.
So Hulk Hogan's music hits, the classic Real American music hits, and he comes down the tunnel with his on-screen manager for several years, Jimmy Hart. He's waving an American flag. Hogan's wearing the T-shirt for his beer company, which I believe WWE had just signed a.
Yeah, it was on the mat.
We've
not spoke about that actually. The mat was
all the stuff on
very
the
UFC at Fortnite and Riyadh season and all that.
So Hogan starts speaking, and the boos start. And I was thinking initially, is this am I hearing this right?
The excitement starts building inside you. Butterflies.
The boos just seem to increase as he's talking about. He starts talking about having had great partners, and he's talking about WWE partnering with Netflix, then WWE partnering with his beer company, and he's sort of chucked in some stuff about him partnering with Savage and Andre and stuff like that. And the boos are they're continuing.
They're getting louder.
And there was a point, Jimmy Hart's behind him waving this flag, and it's his face as he is. I think he's being like, "Oh no, Hulkster, don't say it. They've turned. We got to get out of here." And he continues with his promo like the way he does, as if he's being cheered, which is fine, I think, if you're a heel and you're an in-ring character, but he's not. He's a wrestling pensioner here for a pop, and it's gone massively wrong, and I loved every second of it.
It felt like he was, at award shows when they're like talking off a teleprompter. It seemed like he had something to get through.
And it's just, I'll keep going until
so old. Hogan.
He does, but I don't know if this makes me a bad person. I think my favourite bit, because he rips off his top T-shirt, which is his American beer T-shirt, and is it a Netflix one or something like that? It's on And the boos are just continuing. He's doing the rip, and then he just goes to walk back. Like, there's a little muscle pose, and then he just goes to walk back, and he almost looks like his head's down, and it's. I think I enjoyed it too much.
He was like proper, and it was probably as a result of like 45 years of leg drops, but he was like proper crooked over, like, oh, for God's sake, it's so unfair.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, he started. I feel like the crowd turned on him when he started talking about partners, because it's obvious where he was going, and WWE and Netflix is the great, and it's just like boo, and it's like you said about his beer, and it's like boo. Fuck off! We've had enough things hawked at us.
Had enough of this, and now our fucking hero from when I was a child is trying to sell me his beer.
I just looked up. Jimmy Hart's 81.
Oofed. He was doing well waving that flag then.
He was. Like a little cheerleader running about behind them. Yoo-hoo!
I was just waiting for Beefcake to walk out, but no such luck.
Imagine. Could have been the highlight. So that takes us to our main event, which I don't recall if we got a video package
There
build it
was
up, did we?
there was a little. It wasn't the most extensive one, but there was a little package just showing some of their back and forth, because there were some things that I didn't know kind of made me laugh. I can't remember which way round it was. These must be two of the most frequently injured wrestlers that we've encountered. And apparently one of them was tearing into the other for their injury record. And I was thinking, regardless of which way round this was, there's quite an easy comeback here.
I thought, well, Rollins was definitely talking about Punk being an older man and all that sort of stuff.
Rollins has missed plenty of time.
He's got them dodgy, he's got chocolate ankles and knees and all that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, did he not tear his knee at Mania? I think he did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he tore his knee on night 1, and then he had to have his match on night 2 where he dropped his belt. Maybe fairly quickly, he may have dropped it fairly quickly, but then he also had to do the run-in for the main event.
That's right.
He couldn't get in the ring for the cell. Somebody had to help him into the ring.
That's right. And he must have quite a long period out when he was sort of reaching his peak. Whenever that would that be like 2016-ish?
Probably about then, yeah.
They could have done a really good video package. I feel like the bar for video packages is always Limp Bizkit, My Way, Austin Rock.
Yeah.
They had a really good opportunity to do this, because there must definitely be footage of these two tag teaming together in NXT. Must be pictures of them that one of them has when Rollins has come to try and get training from Punk when he was at Ring of Honor. Throughout the years, there must be, and it's just, I don't know if they're waiting for that for a pay-per-view, but
see, even when the Shield debuted, they were kind of his lackeys. So there would have been plenty there, and even I'm not so keen on this myself, but I know it'll be out there. Clips from interviews, social media posts.
Phil, get away from me, your cancer, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, plenty of that there that they could have tapped into.
They had a really good back and forth the previous week, which I sent to you. I don't know if you ever watched it.
I did, yeah. Because usually, Punk, I'm not the biggest Punk fan, but he's good on the mic. He always has been. I've not that often rated Rollins on the mic, but I thought he was quite good in that.
Me too. Are we going to get on to me slagging off Rollins? Are we starting that now? Yeah,
go for it. Yeah.
He's just very try hard. All of it's very try hard. All of it's very. Look at me. I'm a wrestler. I'm a wrestling character called Seth Rollins.
Oh, the last time I remember him being properly having a holy shit, it's Seth Rollins moment was when he cashed in during I think it was Lesnar and Roman Reigns main event for the title. And that was a thing, because that had never been done, and he went and did it, and it was, his old partner and all that he was part cashing in on. But I've never felt, I don't know what Seth Rollins is meant to be.
Yeah. He's a revolutionary, according to his thing. He had that little thing during the pandemic where he was like the Monday Night Messiah, and he was going a bit Charles Manson. Remember, I don't know if you remember this or no, he took Rey Mysterio's eye out.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
That was quite a cool character.
Yeah.
Very, very straight edge society punk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that was maybe my favourite Punk.
He's just not really a character. I think CM Punk even said that somewhere. He was like, you don't need all this stuff. Just be who you don't need this laugh and these clothes.
Yeah.
And all this, and it just comes across as like playing a character.
It was almost when he did do that run-in at the Mania main event, and he had the Shield gear on, and it had been the Shield music that started, because obviously that's the way you're getting into Roman Reigns' head.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking, thinking, that's Seth Rollins. That's him. He's 1/3 of the Shield.
He's one of the Shield. When he fought Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble that time, when that's what he did, isn't it? He came out in the Shield stuff and all that. That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
But then the next night he's probably giving and all that sort of stuff. And the over-the-top dressing and all that. It's just, what did I say to you? Looks like a red Venus flytrap or something like that. It just looks ridiculous. And I know he's supposed to look ridiculous, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, if there was a point to all of it, yeah, I'll buy in. But, yeah.
Like, Dominic Mysterio's a million times more of a wrestling character than Seth Rollins is.
Oh, yeah. And he's developed that quickly. It's nice. In terms of a wrestling career, he's not been there that long, and he's got something about him.
What do you think of Punk's get up with his this is my backstage beat up Jack Perry get up on? These the old straight edge stuff.
Yeah, Straight Edge had been my favourite Punk. I remember being so disappointed when that all started to disband, because at the time I think it was pretty much the only interesting thing that was on WWE programming, and it suited him. He had that ability to just go out and talk, and he's obviously not in the same way, but you could see him as like a cult leader because he can talk and people will follow.
100%.
You've got that charisma about you. So yeah, when I saw he was kind of going for that look, I was like, I remember that.
Please do that instead of this grizzled veteran thing that you're doing just now. I think he's had a hair transplant.
Oh, maybe.
He's got weird hair.
Yeah. Was it?
He's maybe just blessed with good hair, but...
He maybe is. I feel like at his age, though, because you've seen him shave it a few times. And I'm like, that's a confident man at his age that's shaving his head. It doesn't always come back.
He said before that he likes to, if he's making a return or he's been away and come back or whatever, something needs to be different. So remember he had the Wolverine sideburns for a bit.
Yeah.
He had the shaved head in AEW when he came back the second time. He had the sort of big beard and all that sort of stuff. He's always said that he's like to do something to differentiate his characters. I don't know what this character is though. Mercenary with zero morals and values.
Yeah, it's a funny one because obviously he'd come back and they had plans for him. Was it due to be him and Seth at Mania before he did his knee?
With the Rumble and all that, I think so. Probably, I think he was the first person to erupt him and all that sort of stuff. So that would make sense.
Yeah. And then he's missed the time and he's done the other stuff. He's a good talker, so you use him in a studio or whatever capacity you want to use him as a talking head. And then he's come back, and I think you touched on the McIntyre program earlier. Was I think a pretty good program. I was maybe done with it a little bit before it was done, but I thought it was a decent program. And then you put him straight away with Seth, but again, for me, maybe not the build or taking the time to put into it, just chucking them straight into it, like the stuff you talked about before about all the sniping back and forth that they've had. There could have been months of build.
I think they've done it twice.
Yeah. And I felt like he was just launched in, and I think they said something at was it towards the end of this or was it after the end of this? Where they're like, will Seth give it up now or something? Will he quit this now or something like that? And I was kind of thinking, well, I kind of hope so, because I don't need to see this again. And I think if there was any value in it, they've kind of lost it. They've wasted it.
They also don't gel very well in the ring.
No, it didn't really get going.
It was really, really slow, and I don't mind slow. I can watch slow all day if it's Bret Hart or I don't know, but this just was boring.
Yeah.
Punk's moving really slow. And I think you need somebody in there to move with them.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of worked with Drew. He's a big guy, but he's mobile. He can get around the ring, and Punk could bump for him, quite a lot.
And it makes sense for it to be a bit slower because he's trying to chop down the tree sort of thing.
Yeah. Whereas you like when I was watching this, I was thinking, I wonder what this would have been like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the idea of this match sounds a lot more interesting than what, and that's probably quite a good way to sum up this whole show.
Yeah.
Actually, I am really sick of supposed grudge matches that start off with two people speaking to each other or just standing looking at each other. They did it with Roman and Solo as well. It's the same as hot tags these days. Hot tags, and the person walks in the ring and stands and stares across at the other person. Yeah, it just didn't do anything for me at all, this match. Seth's arguing with the referee for ages.
Oh yeah, he was.
They could only have wrestled for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I checked the time when it was starting. Or was it when it was Seth's intro? And it was about...
Oh, Jesus. That's pretty longer than the match.
There were about... It can't have been far off, because I think at his intro there were about 14 minutes left of the show.
Right.
And I thought, well, we're not going to get much else beyond this at that point. But then it was about 5 minutes, the intro.
Nah, a couple of things. I've never seen Punk do a spinning neck breaker off the top rope. That was a bit daring.
Yeah.
But they really quickly went into the spamming of each other's finishers. Let's kick out each other's finishers, all that sort of stuff again.
Yeah. You always feel like, say you're at a WrestleMania and it's the third time. Like, I don't think anyone minded, Rock hitting a stunner on Stone Cold when you were, so far into that story. I think it started to really annoy me, the GTS attempts by Rollins and the what was it Punk was doing? Was it, which move was it? The pedigree?
He's tried to do stomps.
It was the stomps.
He tried 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
They were also kicking out, like, Punk kicked out after a pedigree on the table, then a pedigree in the
ring. Yeah. Too much.
Too much. Again, I think we spoke about... Oh, there was a really silly... Sorry, I'm interrupting myself. There was a really silly bit right towards the end. Seth gave him the buckle bomb, then the stomp, but he stomped him right next to the rope, and then, tried to pin him. I don't know. It's not... We said at the start, it wasn't for us, and we understand that.
Yeah.
But it's hard, though. It is frustrating to watch someone like that and go, like, is this what they decided was the presentation that they were going to give?
I was interested because I was trying to ideally avoid spoilers, and I mentioned to you there's a NFL journalist that I follow on social media who...
Do you follow her for her journalism?
Yeah, she's very good. Yeah.
Beautiful journalism.
She was at, and she had never watched a WWF event. She was at the show. It was her first ever experience of WWF, and she bloody loved it. She absolutely loved it. Now, if that's an indication of, a lot of people who are watching this for the first time, then they've done a good job. Whether they can keep that and balance with having like interesting creative and interesting matches that wrestling fans are going to grab onto, that'll be... I'm curious to see how they balance that.
I would say that is probably nigh on impossible with a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour and a half show. But there's no way of retaining people's interest for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you've got people coming in that, well, I thought he was the champion. Well, actually, he's on a different show on Friday night, and that's on for 3 hours as well. What the fuck? I'm going to spend my life watching this pish.
Such an interesting... Like, see when we were younger, and it was... Raw used to be on Sky on a Friday night, and the Nitro used to be on
Bravo? Was it on Bravo?
I think it was a version of a Turner channel it was like Turner Classics or something like that. And you would, if you just weren't interested in what was being shown on your screen, you would flick over and watch a bit of the other show. But if you flick away from Netflix with the idea of going back, it's just going to resume from where you flicked away.
Mm.
And will that mean that people won't go back if they see one thing that isn't that interesting to them, or will they just skip forward? Maybe if they're a wrestling fan, skip forward and see if the next segment interests them.
That's an interesting point.
It's really different, just viewing habits. And what I also find interesting, like we're football fans, watch a game of football, quite enjoy it, and I keep hearing that the younger generation will find it difficult to be interested in watching that for 90 minutes.
Mhm.
Like, it's too long. It's 90 minutes. This wrestling show's 3 hours.
With a
3
lot
hours.
of breaks. A lot of breaks in between. That's what I mean about they had the opportunity to debut Penta there, and like that would grab the attention of kids. Like he looks really cool, and he's got a mask, and he would come out and do crazy shit. Like it really amazed me that they didn't do something like that.
I mean, I'm kind of assuming. Oh, I'm not going to watch the next one, but I'm kind of assuming there'll be more matches on the next one. This was very much a kick-off show, so I'll be interested to sort of see what the flow of the show was. I'm not going to watch it, but I usually, there's a couple of websites I look at to see what happened on any given show. So I'll probably tune back into those and look at what kind of show was this. And if it just keeps with that pattern, it's very unlikely I'll ever watch one again.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting thing. I can't remember. I was watching somebody this morning. They were saying this gives, if this is a blueprint that they're going to follow, then this gives AEW the opportunity just to go, well, this is kind of what they do anyway, which is like, oh, we're just going to ram pack our show full of good wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think there's potential for them to actually gain. I think some people like us might have watched that and went, I'm going to see what else is available because this is no scratch in my wrestling itch sort of thing.
Yeah. It's become quite common for me that I'll watch a Rumble and a Mania, and then kind of take it from there. And if somebody says, "Oh, SummerSlam was good," I might watch SummerSlam. But I had felt these last maybe this last year or so, I had been watching a bit more in terms of the pay-per-views. I hadn't really been watching any of the TV. But you do feel, I don't know, a little bit deflated by the direction. I will still watch the Rumble, and hopefully it'll grab me, but we'll see.
I think they said that Owens and Cody are having a ladder match at the Rumble. That sounds slightly intriguing.
Okay, yeah.
What was I going to say there? I always use this analogy of, you know, the episode of Simpsons where Homer finds out that Bart's been smoking cigarettes, so he makes him smoke like 1 million packets of cigarettes. That's what I feel like WWE do. Like, there's no need for that to be 3 hours long, especially when they've just had the opportunity. I imagine with Netflix that they're not required to meet like a 3-hour window or anything like that.
Yeah.
They could have done something completely different. I don't necessarily mean with this new show, with this show there, but going forward.
Yeah. I wonder whose influence it is. I've got a funny feeling if you were to take every microphone away and tell him this is a conversation in absolute confidence, Triple H, how long would you rather the show was? He would not say 3 hours. There's no way he would say 3 hours. But I do think your Nick Cans would maybe be like, we can have 3 hours of exposure
sponsors
here. 3 hours of advertising. Yeah.
That's what led me. The thing that led me to saying that was when you were saying about like even watching WrestleMania, like they're making SummerSlam a 2-night event. I find it difficult to watch 2 nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah, and especially when you look at it and you think that could so easily have been condensed into one. There's some unnecessary matches on there. I'm not saying I don't want these people to get a payday from getting a match on the night, but you get even when it's 2 nights. I think they went to 2 nights for COVID, didn't they? And then they've just never gone back.
36, yep.
Yeah. And it was to avoid having too many people in their performance center or wherever it was they were doing it at any one time. But given they sold out both nights in that massive arena in Philadelphia, they're obviously going to keep doing 2 nights for Mania.
Do you think there's a tipping point, though? If they do like Survivor Series for 2 nights and...
Yeah, I think there is. You would surely... They'll see how the viewing figures and the ticket sales go for SummerSlam. I think it's a given Mania will be 2 nights for the foreseeable. But if it doesn't really work with SummerSlam, they could revert back, maybe.
Mm. The thing is, it's a bit like, you know, that thing where you get more money so you buy a bigger house. I would imagine they get to a point where they need to do 2 nights and they need to sell out whatever.
Because what I think sponsors look at and all the advertising money is I think that there'll be a line, you know, here's your number of viewers, and I think, say for Netflix, you will have a drop off from episode 1 to episode 2. It's always a given. You have a drop off, but it's about, I think, maintaining a certain level of your viewership. So it'd be interesting to see how many people stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, they're tied in. They've got this deal. They'll obviously want to do enough to get another massive deal when that one comes to an end. But I just don't know how many people would be interested in rewatching that show that we just watched if it's like that on a regular basis.
Yeah. And with this thing that we're talking about, that feels like we're sort of talking about them painting themselves into a corner a little bit with how they need to deliver, you're going to continually keep coming back to The Rock, John Cena, The Undertaker.
Yeah.
That Undertaker appearance is really making me laugh. It's so baffling.
Yeah.
Like, where's the room for who is a star that's come up through WWE? Like a star.
Like all the way through there.
Before Roman. Probably nobody before Roman.
I mean, before Roman, it would have been as long ago, I think, as the class of like Cena,
Batista,
Orton's still there. But yeah, Cena obviously on his last tour. Batista will never wrestle again. He's doing too well at the other thing. But yeah, they don't. I suppose what they're more open to now, or they seem more open to now, is taking people that have been elsewhere. Because it did seem like they turned their nose up at that for a while. But yeah, there's no. I think one of the interesting things you touched on earlier, when we talked about that Mania match where we thought Roman Reigns was so far ahead of everyone else, Cody Rhodes has come in, done a very good job. He's done a very good job. Gunther's got something different, and I love it. It suits what I want to see. I imagine they're going to make Braun Breaker a big star. That just makes too much sense to not do it. But you kind of need to have that. It kind of needs to flow. You need more emerging, because your pathway to acting, I think, has now been established by, you know, Rock obviously with his stuff, but you know, Batista, Cena, they've both done well enough to continue getting acting jobs. And I think the likelihood of these guys coming back now when it happens, like if we heard that Roman Reigns was going to be in a big film in 2 years' time, I'm not sure he would be back in a wrestling ring. I'd be looking at it thinking he's done. He's gone. So and they always say, well, I think it's always been thought what killed WCW and what hurt WWE for a while was not creating new stars. And sort of all ties in with what you mentioned earlier, that maybe they've just missed a massive opportunity to showcase some of these new stars.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, do you remember during the Super Bowl, not that long ago, not during the Super Bowl, but during the Super Bowl halftime, NXT did a halftime match. I can't remember what it was. It was like
a multi-person tag.
Yeah, it was like their best three faces, best three heels, and that, like Ricochet, Adam Cole, Aleister Black, Andrade. Maybe I don't remember, but it just felt like a marquee. Like, here, check us out, like look at these guys. You'd never heard of it, but look what they can do. That was missing for that show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So there we go. Overall, could you put it into one word? The Netflix debut of WWE.
Meh.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think
What
that's
about you?
fair.
Uninspiring.
Overproduced.
Okay.
Overproduced. Overbooked. Damn right, I'm over. Yeah. And we got Stephanie McMahon doing her total intense eye waving in the crowd as well. Who's your favourite celebrity they showed the crowd? Topanga.
Oh yeah, definitely. It took me right back to my childhood.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I liked Macaulay Culkin's whole, like, you know, he had the face down and then up, and there's something quite odd about that man, but I do quite like it.
I think it's he and his brothers are all big wrestling fans.
Yeah, his brother was there. I think he interacted with Punk because he just won like a Golden Globe the night before or something.
Yeah.
Was that for Succession? Aye.
No, I think it's for a film.
Oh.
So yeah, I think he's maybe going to become a pretty big deal.
Brilliant.
Actually, I always thought he was great in Succession. It was fantastic.
And I've watched like one episode of Succession.
I have, yeah. Oh, I bloody loved that show.
Go back to it. So he interacted. Kieran Culkin interacted with Punk, and I saw someone comment on the internet that someone should have said "Go easy on the Pepsi," which would have been great.
Yeah. Just at a time of year when that's all just been fresh in people's minds, that would have worked.
That blew my mind. I didn't realise that that's who that was until maybe a month or so ago.
I think I found out when he first started getting taken a bit more seriously as an actor. I think I found that out. I was like, really? And I didn't believe it. I had to look it up.
It doesn't even look like him, does it?
No. Apparently, they wanted him to be the missing kid when Macaulay Culkin left after the second Home Alone.
Oh, man.
And the director was up for doing it with him as the kid, but they wanted Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, and they both rejected it, so it never got off the ground.
Oh man, do you think that's messed up Kieran Culkin for like
maybe he's only just recovered.
Maybe, man, I feel bad for him. Higby goes down. Another Kieran Culkin classic. That's not an easy thing.
Nice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, we're not going back to watch more current WWE, are we, Adam?
No.
And we talked about where we were going to go. We talked about returning in 1994. Doesn't seem like it's an available option just now, simply because of what Netflix have made available, which is another sort of slight disappointment, which we expected, I think. Yeah. So that's not really on the cards. A lot of have you had a look at the sort of library?
No, so I only went in to watch the Raw, and because it was like basically right front and center when I opened up Netflix, I didn't have to navigate anywhere or anything like that, so I've not actually looked yet.
They've got like like at Christmas time they have like a Christmas thing. They've got like a WWE thing like that. You go into it and then it kind of starts to look a wee bit like the network. They've got like 5-minute promo packages of like sort of bigger stars. But yeah, I think it's odd that they put all that money in NXT UK and then there's just like no way to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a shame. It is a shame.
Yeah, so we're not going back to 1994. We talked about watching some Dynamite, but I fear we would probably have quite a similar experience to what we've just had. Perhaps talk about different things, but with a similar tone.
Yeah.
So we're going to go. We've decided to go a bit wild, and we're going to go and watch some Lucha Underground instead, aren't we?
Yeah, I have never watched any Lucha Underground. This is
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So what we've initially agreed is we'll watch the first 4 episodes, come back and talk about it in a couple of weeks, and then decide if you are willing to continue watching it after that.
Yeah. I have to give it a go. I have styles of wrestling I prefer, but we're going into it knowing that. So let's just see what I think of this. It's going to be totally different from anything we've covered on here.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully, with a little bit of breath of fresh air, maybe.
No pressure. I think of it as what you're watching a TV program and not going to start watching a wrestling show.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and it's its own thing inside its own world and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, there's Conan, so
yeah,
right for the bat. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah. See how we get on. We'll speak in 2 weeks. I feel like we did TNA at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Now was the time to do the.
Yeah. In hindsight, we didn't know.
Yeah. Nick Khan or anybody else, just give us a shout next time and we can prepare accordingly.
Yeah, I think we'd been providing a hell of a lot of viewers for the network as it was, because people would listen to us, then go and watch the stuff we talked about. But if they don't want our help, so be it.
Well, fuck them. We're not going to watch Netflix. Just got to keep watching Squid Game season 2 instead. Right, nice. We'll see how we go on with Lucha.
Yep.
And we'll speak again in 2 weeks. Yeah. So we're signing off. All good? Yes? Yeah. I've got a question for you. What was your favourite film you watched over Christmas Day?
So I watched 2 that I thought were really good.
Yes.
That were not Christmassy films, just I watched one called A Different Man, which is a tour de force by Sebastian Stan, I would say.
Nice. Is that the Trump thing? No, that's called The Apprentice, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Good film, interesting, bit different, and he is fantastic in it.
Nice. He's a good actor, him.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and I also I can't shake the one I watched called The Substance. I mean,
amazing!
Wow. I mean, even the story's plodding along and it's good. I find it interesting. I thought, you start thinking, what would you do, and this kind of thing, and then the sort of last 20 minutes or so. Wow.
It is bonkers, isn't it? I love...
We sat down and watched that on Hogmanay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Amazing. Did your wife enjoy it as well?
She did, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Mine too. I love... There's just a certain point, and there was spoiling in, but there's a certain point where Demi Moore just starts cooking, and it's like, this is the point where it's going to get mental.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Massively enjoyed that as well. I like it.
Yeah. Any you watched worth a shout?
No, I can think of. I can't. Nah. I've played a lot of Football Manager recently.
Nice.
It's been commented on how often I've been playing Football Manager. So,
for some reason, at this time of year, I find myself watching lots of documentaries, and there's never really any sense to what I'm watching. I'd be like watching one about Sir Alex Ferguson, then I'll think, I'm going to watch this one about Avicii, even though I don't know anything about Avicii or his music. And I ended up watching about 4 or 5 different documentaries, but I have no idea why. It always happens around the December, January. I just think, I'll start watching this stuff.
New Year, start craving some new inspiration and information.
Maybe, yeah.
That's what we can offer you with Lucha Underground.
Can't wait.
With executive producer Robert Rodriguez and Matt Stryker and Vampiro.
I won't get carried away. But I'm definitely going to give it its chance.
Excellent.
That's all I can do.
Okay. Well, take it easy, and we'll stay out of the cold and the ice. Don't slip on the ice because of your back.
Yeah. It was a wee bit treacherous yesterday morning. I think it'll be the same tomorrow.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
And enjoy your Terramana tequila and your Zoa Energy, and the blunt that you're smoking with Travis Scott. We'll speak in 2 weeks.
Cheers.